45 of our 365-day Bible read, and we will be reading from Leviticus chapters 18 and 19 from the Old Testament, and then we will go on and do the Bible study for Leviticus chapters 18 and 19, and then we'll go to the New Testament and finish Matthew chapter 27 by reading verse 32 through 66. And we'll do the Bible study for the entire Matthew chapter 27. Yesterday we did read Matthew 27 verse 1 through 31, and we didn't do the Bible study for that half of Matthew 27. So we're going to do the Bible study for the entire chapter once we finish the chapter of Matthew 27 today. I am following the year Bible reading schedule from esv.org. They do split the chapters up over the course of 2 days, sometimes 3 days of the New Testament, of some of the books of the New Testament. And so it's not me splitting up the chapters. It's just, I'm just following esv.org's year Bible reading schedule, and that's how they split the chapters up sometimes like that. Only of the New Testament though, just because there's more books of the Bible in the Old Testament. So so let's get started. Leviticus chapter 18. Unlawful sexual relations. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to the people of Israel and say to them, I am the Lord your God. You shall not do as they do in the land of Egypt, where you lived, and you shall not do as they do in the land of Canaan, to which I am bringing you. You shall not walk in their statutes. You shall follow my rules and keep my statutes and walk in them. I am the Lord your God. You shall therefore keep my statutes and my rules. If a person does them, he shall live by them. I am the Lord. None of you shall approach any one of his close relatives to uncover nakedness. I am the Lord. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father, with which is the nakedness of your mother. She is your mother. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife. It is your father's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your sister, your father's daughter, or your mother's daughter, whether brought up in the family or in another home. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your son's daughter or of your daughter's daughter, for their nakedness is your own nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's wife's daughter, brought up in your father's family, since she is your sister. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's sister, she is your father's relative. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your mother's sister, for she is your mother's relative. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your father's brother, that is, you shall not approach his wife, she is your aunt. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your daughter-in-law, she is your son's wife. You shall not uncover her nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of your brother's wife, it is your brother's nakedness. You shall not uncover the nakedness of a woman and of her daughter, and you shall not take her son's daughter or her daughter's daughter to uncover her nakedness. They are relatives. It is depravity, it is depravity, and you shall not take a woman as a rival wife to her sister, uncovering her nakedness while her sister is still alive. You shall not approach a woman to uncover her nakedness while she is in her menstrual uncleanness. And you shall not lie sexually with your neighbor's wife, and so make yourself unclean with her. You shall not give any of your children to offer them to Molech, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. And you shall not lie with any animal, and so make yourself unclean with it. Neither shall any woman give herself to an animal to lie with it. It is provision. Do not make yourselves unclean by any of these things, for by all these the nations I am driving out before you have become unclean. And the land became unclean, so that I punished its iniquity, and the land vomited out its inhabitants. But you shall keep my statutes and my rules, and do none of these abominations, either the native or the stranger who sojourns among you. For the people of the land who were before you did all these abominations, so that the land became unclean. Lest the land vomit you out when you make it unclean, as it vomited out the nation that was before you. For everyone who does any of these abominations, the persons who do them shall be cut off from among their people. So keep my charge never to practice any of these abominable customs that were practiced before you, and never to make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. Leviticus chapter 19. The Lord is holy. And the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, Speak to all the congregation of the people of Israel, and say to them, You shall be holy, for I, the Lord your God, am holy. Every one of you shall revere his mother and his father, and you shall keep my Sabbaths. I am the Lord your God. Do not turn to idols to make for yourselves any gods of cast metal. I am the Lord your God. When you offer a sacrifice of peace offerings to the Lord, you shall offer it so that you may be accepted. It shall be eaten the same day you offer it on the day after. And anything left over until the third day shall be burned up with fire. If it is eaten at all on the third day, it is tainted. It will not be accepted, and everyone who eats it shall bear his iniquity, because he has profaned what is holy to the Lord. And that person shall be cut off from his people. Love your neighbor as yourself. When you reap the harvest of your land, you shall not reap your field right up to its edge, neither shall you gather the gleanings after your harvest, and you shall not strip your vineyard bare, neither shall you gather the fallen grapes of your vineyard. You shall leave them for the poor and for the sojourner. I am the Lord your God. You shall not steal. You shall not deal falsely. You shall not lie to one another. You shall not swear by my name falsely, and so profane the name of your God. I am the Lord. You shall not oppress your neighbor or rob him. The wages of a hired worker shall not remain with you all night until the morning. You shall not curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind, but you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. You shall do no injustice in court. You shall not be partial to the poor or defer to the great, but in righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. You shall not go around as a slanderer among your people, and you shall not stand up against the life of your neighbor. I am the Lord. You shall not hate your brother in your heart, but you shall reason frankly with your neighbor, lest you incur sin because of him. You shall not take vengeance or bear a grudge against the sons of your own people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am the Lord. You shall keep my statutes. You shall keep my statutes. You shall not let your cattle breed with a different kind. You shall not sow your field with two kinds of seed, nor shall you wear a garment of cloth made of two kinds of material. If a man lies sexually with a woman who is a slave assigned to another man and not yet ransomed or given her freedom, a distinction, sorry, okay, where was I? A distinction shall be made. Okay, let me read that part over. If a man lies sexually with a woman who is a slave assigned to another man and not yet ransomed or given her freedom, a distinction shall be made. They shall not be put to death because she was not free, but she shall bring his compensation to the Lord, to the entrance of the tent of meeting, a ram for a guilt offering. And the priest shall make atonement for him with the ram of the guilt offering before the Lord for his sin that he has committed. And he shall be forgiven for the sin that he has committed. When you come into the land and plant any kind of tree for food, then you shall regard its fruit as forbidden. 3 years it shall be forbidden to you. It must not be eaten. And in the 4th year all its fruit shall be holy, an offering of praise to the Lord. But in the 5th year you may eat of its fruit, to increase its yield for you. I am the Lord your God. You shall not eat any flesh with the blood in it. You shall not interpret omens or tell fortunes. You shall not round off the hair on your temples or mar the edges of your beard. You shall not make any cuts on your body for the dead or tattoo yourselves. I am the Lord. Do not profane your daughter by making her a prostitute, lest the land fall into prostitution and the land become full of depravity. You shall keep my Sabbaths and reverence my sanctuary. I am the Lord. Do not turn to mediums or do not turn to mediums or necromancers. Do not seek them out, and so make yourselves unclean by them. I am the Lord your God. You shall stand up before the gray head and honor the face of an old man, and you shall fear your God. I am the Lord. When a stranger sojourns with you in your land, you shall not do him wrong. You shall treat the stranger who sojourns with you as the native among you, and you shall love him as yourself, for you were strangers in the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. You shall do no wrong in judgment in measures of length or weight or quantity. You shall have just balances, just weights, and just ephah, and just hin. I am the Lord your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt, and you shall observe all my statutes and all my rules and do them. I am the Lord. All right, so that was Leviticus chapters 18 and 19 of the Old Testament. And we're now going to do the Bible study for Leviticus chapter 18 and 19. And then we'll go on over to the New Testament and finish up Matthew chapter 27 by reading verse 32 through 66. And we'll be done with that chapter, and we'll do the Bible study for that as well. We did read Matthew 27 verse 1 through 31 yesterday, and so we're just finishing it up today. And and then we have one more chapter of the book of Matthew, so that's really exciting, and we'll be starting the book of Mark. But yes, I am following the year Bible reading schedule from esv.org, and they do split the New Testament up into they split the books of some of the chapters in the books of the New Testament. They split them up because there's more books in the Old Testament than it is in the New Testament. And they have their year Bible reading schedule so that we can read some of the Old Testament and some of the New Testament every day, but in order. We're reading from the first book of the Old Testament straight through to the end, and the first book of the New Testament straight through from the beginning to the end. So we're not skipping around. So yes, but they split it up that way, and just because so that we can finish both books on the 365th day. So that's why it's like that. So yes, so let's get started with the Bible study of what we just read in the Old Testament, chapters 18 and chapter 19. Leviticus chapter 18 is what we're going to start now. So Leviticus chapter 18 Bible study. With who were the children of Israel never to lie? The children of Israel were never to lie with any of their close relatives. How does God feel about a man lying with another man as with a woman? God hates when a man lies with another man. It is an abomination to him. What would the land do if Israel defiled it by their actions? God would vomit or remove them out of the land as he would do to the people already there. All right, so that was the Bible study for what we just read in Leviticus chapter 18. And now we're going to do the Bible study for what we read in Leviticus chapter 19. So this is Leviticus chapter 19 Bible study. What did God not want the people of Israel to make? The people were never to make any molded gods as idols to worship. What did God want the people to leave in the fields at harvest time? The people were to leave the corners of the land and the gleanings for the poor. How were the people not to curse the deaf or put a stumbling block before the blind? Literally, they were not to mistreat the deaf or blind who could not defend themselves. Figuratively, they were not to lead the weaker brother astray or take advantage of anyone who does realize or understand who doesn't realize or understand what they are doing. In what year could the fruit of newly planted trees be eaten? The fruit of the trees was not allowed to be eaten until the 5th year after the offerings of first fruits to the Lord in the 4th year. How were the people of Israel to treat strangers? They were to love strangers as themselves, for they were once mistreated strangers in a foreign land. All right, so that was the Bible study for chapter 19, and we're now going to go on over to the New Testament and read Matthew chapter 27. We're going to finish Matthew 27 by reading verse 32 through 66, and we'll do the Bible study for the entire Matthew chapter 27. All right. Matthew 27, verse 32. Okay, the crucifixion. As they went out, they found a man of Cyrene, Simon by name. They compelled this man to carry his cross, and when they came to a place called Golgotha, which means place of a skull, they offered him wine to drink, mixed with gall. But when he tasted it, he would not drink it. And when they had crucified him, they divided his garments among them by casting lots. Then they sat down and kept watch over him there. And over his head they put the charge against him, which read, "This is Jesus, the King of the Jews." Then two robbers were crucified with him, one on the right and one on the left. And those who passed by derided him, wagging their heads and saying, "You who would destroy the temple and rebuild it in 3 days, save yourself. If you are the Son of God, come down from the cross." So also the chief priests with the scribes and the elders mocked him, saying, "He saved others, he cannot save himself. He is the King of Israel. Let him come down now from the cross, and we will believe in him. He trusts in God. Let God deliver him now, if he desires him. For he said, 'I am the Son of God.'" And the robbers who were crucified with him also reviled him in the same way. The death of Jesus. Now from the 6th hour there was darkness over all the land until the 9th hour. And about the 9th hour Jesus cried out with a loud voice, saying, "Eli, Eli, lema sabachthani." Sabachthani. That is, my God, why have you forsaken me?" And some of the bystanders hearing it said, "This man is calling Elijah." And one of them at once ran and took a sponge, filled it with sour wine, and put it on a reed and gave it to him to drink. But the others said, "Wait, let us see whether Elijah will come to save him." And Jesus cried out again with a loud voice and yielded up his spirit. And behold, the curtain of the temple was torn in two from the top to the bottom, and the earth shook, and the rocks were split. The tombs also were opened, and many bodies of the saints who had fallen asleep were raised. And coming out of the tombs after his resurrection, they went into the holy city and appeared to many. When the centurion and those who were with him, keeping watch over Jesus, saw the earthquake and what took place, they were filled with awe and said, "Truly, this was the Son of God." There were also many women there looking on from a distance who had followed Jesus from Galilee, ministering to him, among whom were Mary Magdalene and Mary, the mother of James and Joseph, and the mother of the sons of Zebedee. Jesus is buried. When it was evening, there came a rich man from Arimathea named Joseph, who also was a disciple of Jesus. He went to Pilate and asked for the body of Jesus. Then Pilate ordered it to be given to him. And Joseph took the body and wrapped it in clean linen shroud and laid it in his own new tomb, which he had cut in the rock. And he rolled a great stone to the entrance of the tomb and went away. Mary Magdalene and the other Mary were there sitting opposite the tomb. The guard at the tomb. The next day, that is, after the day of preparation, the chief priests and the Pharisees gathered before Pilate and said, "Sir, we remember how that impostor said while he was still alive, 'After 3 days I will rise.' Therefore order the tomb to be made secure until the third day, lest his disciples go and steal him away and tell the people, 'He has risen from the dead,' and the last fraud will be worse than the first." Pilate said to them, "You have a guard of soldiers. Go, make it as secure as you can." So they went and made the tomb secure by sealing the stone and setting a guard. All right, that was Matthew chapter 27, and we're now going to do the Bible study for Matthew chapter 27. That was Matthew 27, verse 32 through 66. but we're going to do the Bible study for the entire chapter, Matthew 27. That's including what we read yesterday, which was verse 1 through 31 of Matthew chapter 27 yesterday. So, yes, Matthew chapter 27 Bible study. Why was Judas still lost even after being remorseful for what he had done? Judas had worldly sorrow because of his guilty conscience. He was guilty before men instead of God. True repentance would have led him to the feet of Jesus instead of killing himself. Before whom was Jesus brought for questioning? Jesus was brought to Pontius Pilate, the governor, for questioning. What did Pilate's wife advise him of Jesus? Pilate's wife advised him to have nothing to do with Jesus. Do not be responsible for his blood. What did Pilate do? Pilate frees himself of the responsibility of the decision of Jesus' death, leaving the Jews to decide what to do with Jesus. Who was compelled to carry Jesus' cross? Simon of Cyrene helped carry the cross for Jesus. Why was the sour wine given to Jesus? The sour wine was used to diminish the senses of the crucified. This would ease their suffering, but could also speed up their death, as they would no longer lift themselves up to breathe while on the cross. Why did Jesus feel that God had forsaken him? Jesus was ready to die and go to the Father. He had suffered very much. What happened in the temple when Jesus died? The veil before the Holy of Holies was torn in two when Jesus died. What did Pilate do? Oh, whoops, I'm sorry. Let me reread this over. What happened in the temple when Jesus died? What did this signify? What did this signify? The veil before the Holy of Holies was torn in two when Jesus died. Now we approach God directly rather than going through a high priest. What happened during the earthquake? Some of the graves of saints were opened up during the earthquake, and their bodies poured forth out of the grave and came to life, being witnessed by many in the city. Why did this happen? The dead coming to life was proof to all saints and a statement to others that the resurrection is real. Jesus is the Messiah, and he is the Son of God. What day was Jesus questioned and crucified? Jesus was questioned during the night before the dawn of the preparation day, the day before the Sabbath, and further abused and then crucified later that morning. This would be Thursday night and Friday morning. What did the Pharisees and chief priests ask Pilate to do at the tomb of Jesus? The Pharisees and chief priests wanted Pilate to post guards at Jesus' tomb. Why did they request this? They wanted to prevent Jesus' body from being stolen so no report could be given that he had been resurrected. All right, so that was the Bible study for Matthew chapter 27, and that finishes our day. Just a quick recap of everything we did today. We read Matthew, I'm sorry, I'll start from the beginning. From the Old Testament, we read Leviticus chapters 18 and 19, and then we did the Bible study for Leviticus chapter 18 and 19. And then we went on over to the New Testament and we finished up Matthew chapter 27 by reading verse 32 through 66. And we did the Bible study for the entire Matthew chapter 27, including what we read yesterday, which was verse 1 through 31 of Matthew 27 yesterday. So, yes, we did the Bible study for the entire chapter of Matthew 27 today after finishing it. And tomorrow we are going to be reading and finishing Matthew chapter 28. So that is very exciting. That's the last chapter of the book of Matthew. And then we will be starting the book of Mark, the second book of the New Testament. So that's very exciting. Also, the book of Leviticus is almost done as well. So we've read from the Old Testament, Genesis, Exodus, we're almost done with Leviticus. And then from the New Testament, we're finishing up Matthew 27. We've finished Matthew 27 today, but we're gonna read and finish Matthew 28 tomorrow, and that's the last chapter of the book of Matthew. So that's really exciting. And then the next day we'll be starting Mark, the book of Mark. So that'll be our second book of the New Testament. So yes, we are knocking them out. We're knocking them out. It's already day 45, so time's flying by. It really is. It's gonna be 2 months soon. So yes, I'm like way ahead. It's gonna be 2 months soon. But yes, this is so exciting. So yes, our growth is going to be amazing by day 365. So I'm so excited for us. So yes, I love you. You are important. You are worthy. You are valuable. God loves you. I love you. You matter. You are enough. And don't let anyone tell you anything different. So stay beautiful, stay you. Don't lessen yourself and let your light shine. And I love you, and I'll see you guys tomorrow for day 46. Love you lots. Enjoy the rest of your Monday.